Southern Africa Human Rights Defenders Network has come in recognizing the critical role of women human rights defenders. I have a few points to make from the resource side of things as the Advancing Rights in Southern Africa program that is supported by USAID, but also provides sub-grants and technical capacity support to human rights defenders and civil society organizations in the room. The first point I actually wanted to make was it doesn't necessarily need resources to push back against authoritarianism. Yes, resources are very important, and yes, we're here to provide them. But in some instances, I have seen how human rights defenders and citizens have just taken to the streets without the need for resources to say, no, enough is enough. We have seen this in Eswatini. We're seeing it now in Eswatini. And we've seen it ahead of elections, and we saw it even in Malawi. Yes, the HRDC was there. But it took citizens saying, no, 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 no. This process was flawed, and we're going to get out into the streets. So this is just to urge everyone to say, you know what, we can't just sit and say, we need resources. We can come out and defend our rights as human rights defenders and protect human rights ahead of elections without the necessary resources. But also we are here as international organizations, and I must say, and commend the collaboration, the great collaboration between international organizations, not just in this room, but more broadly, and how we have come together from Amnesty International, my brother Depro sitting there, Siposani Malunga from the Open Society Initiative for Southern Africa, ICJ, Southern Africa Litigation Center, Frontline Defenders, I recognize Fidelis sitting here, how we've all come together to collaborate to amplify the voices of the human rights defenders that are at the coalface of this fight. Our role is not just to provide resources, but is to use the evidence-based reporting and documentation that you do on the ground to amplify and highlight the human rights issues and the flawed nature of democracy and electoral processes in our region. So I'd like to urge you all to continue to work with us, to give us that evidence, to provide us with that reporting. When you can do so on the ground, we can, as international organizations from outside, we can take your submissions and your reporting to the United Nations. The UN Special Rapporteurs, both of them talked about the importance of human rights reporting and sending those reports to the Special Rapporteurs to ensure that they highlight and amplify what is going on. I also wanted to caution and say to us, to you guys in this room, about how short the electoral cycle is. It's every 4 years, but it flies by. And when the excitement of removing sitting governments has waned, and we now look at those opposition people that we put into power, and the example of Malawi is an interesting one, and we start to see how they too do not want to let go in those 4 years, especially when they're being corrupt and repeating exactly what we saw the previous governments doing, and I think Siposami said the context very well. Are we prepared as human rights defenders, and how prepared are we to continue the battles in those 4 years? Because it doesn't just begin in the 6 months or the year before the elections. It's the entire electoral cycle. And so when that excitement is gone and some of our civil society counterparts have been co-opted, where are we and how are we preparing for the next electoral cycle? How are we preparing to monitor and observe those elections and make sure that what we say is based on evidence? So I just wanted to say those few words. There's more that I could say, but I know we're all hungry. I just wanted to say thank you so much. And for those of us who are not on the coalface, we are here. We stand ready to support you. The organization that I work for and Freedom House, we have an emergency assistance program that supports human rights defenders when they can't report, when they need to relocate, but also to urge everyone to think about their mental wellness, their mental health. It's something that we don't talk about much, but it's certainly something that we need to talk about because of the stresses of the work that we're all doing, especially around elections. So thank you very much.